next question. What social issues, social equity issues, do you see in transport in Auckland, and how, as Mayor, would you address those? David, does somebody else want to go first?
Go first.
First you may be the only one.
Yeah, I used to work at Manukau City Council and live in Grey Lynn, and every day I would catch a bus from from Grey Lynn to Britomart, train from Britomart to Old Papatoetoe Town Centre. This was 5 or 6 years ago, and then a bus from Papatoetoe to Manukau, and that bus had come from Britomart down Kaiba Pass Road, Manukau Road, Royal Oak, Onehunga, Mangere Town Centre, Papatoetoe to Manukau, and it was never on time, obviously, you know, in rush hour traffic. And one day the trains failed. I was on my way home and I caught a bus, buses back to Auckland. It cost me about $10, $15 and it took 3 hours to get home. The next morning I talked to the transport manager, Chris Freak, at Manukau City at morning tea, and I said, Chris, is the transport system in Auckland designed to keep the brown people in South Auckland? And he raised one eyebrow and he said, some people in the regional planning system actually think that way. And what is the city for? It's for people to come together, to be able to work together, learn together, play together, to be together. And they're going to live in different parts of the city. This is agglomeration effects. It's basic labour market flexibility. If you don't have a transport system that allows people to get easily and cheaply around the city, your city falls apart socially, economically and environmentally. We can't have that.
Thanks. John?
Thank you. Look, socially, this traveling an hour and a half is actually destroying it. We have parents leaving their homes early in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. They're coming back 7 o'clock at night. They're not spending enough time with the children. If you don't think that has an impact on family and social, it does. I have a restaurant down in Takanini, right on the Bruce Pullman Park. We go out there every Monday night, we take care of the homeless people out there and talk to them and feed them. And one of the biggest issues is that it's too far to travel. From down there, if you actually took public transportation, it'll take you over an hour and a half and cost you $20 a day to go to work. Well, the reason why we have a lot more homeless than we had before is because when you have a family, you have a couple, and one person can only work part-time, they lose their job. We push them too far away from the work. They can't travel 3 hours a day to go work 3 hours. It's not possible. And they also can't travel on minimum wage to go and pay $20 a day in fees. So socially, we're actually destroying Auckland with transport and the time. You can't expect people to be traveling more than an hour to work. We need to build Auckland different. We need to grow it different. We need to create jobs in neighborhoods so people live, work, and play in their neighborhood. That's what we need to do. Otherwise, socially, we're destroying Auckland. Thank you.
Thanks. Phil?
Yeah, I think a decent public transport system can have a social equity effect. We were talking yesterday morning to the Disability Forum. There are people that can't drive themselves around. If there isn't a public transport system, they can't move about. For our seniors, obviously some of them have given up their cars, given up their licences. That will help in that area. And for those that are on low incomes, having a decent public transport does enable them to get from their homes to their workplace. I want to come to the other aspect of that, which is what happens if you have a petrol tax, what happens if you have congestion charging. Yeah, that is going to be tougher, as everything is tougher for those on low income. But the critical issues facing the low income are actually their housing costs. The bottom 20% of our income earners, the people actually in work, spending 50 to 60% of their income on rent. That's the thing that's crushing them. And I think you can't solve that by avoiding a transport congestion charge or a petrol charge. You've got to have social transfers and the government giving people a living wage or an income that they can actually live on. We do need to address those social equity problems. But actually, who does the petrol tax or the congestion tax fall most heavily on? It will be the business sector, because they're out there using the roads all the time, and the studies have shown that. So not having a petrol tax doesn't help the low income as much as it helps the business sector.
Thanks very much indeed. Penny?
Again, how much money could be made available effectively for social welfare and social equity by cutting out corporate welfare. Again, how much could we save by making public transport public again? Right now, there are people who need to use the buses, like the elderly, who need buses nearby so they don't have to walk, to do shopping, to go to the doctors, to go to hospitals. So if we brought public transport back under the genuine public service model, so it was focused on what people actually wanted in their areas, then that, I believe, would really help. I also absolutely support people getting paid the living wage that goes for council workers, those who work for CCOs, which I want to get rid of, and private contractors. Help fight poverty with money. Thank you.
Thanks, Penny. Vic.
So for me, actually we are making our situation worse. So if you look at the House of Cost of Living in Auckland, whether that's the cost of renting or buying a house, we are actually pushing more low-income Aucklanders and people on social welfare out further and further away from our city and away from places of employment and actually away from any decent public transport offering. So we're seeing quite a change in the demographic of some parts of our city and as we push people out. And I don't think that is not good and that is not okay. So I guess the question is, how do you fix that? One, we have to build more homes. The only way we can control pricing in Auckland of our homes in terms of purchasing and renting is to build more homes and close the gap. Also, I propose to set up a Mayor's task force on affordable housing. I think we can do more between government, council, private providers and social providers like the Housing Foundation to provide more affordable housing closer to the city. Back to public transport, we do need to invest in it. That's why we do need to build out some of the busways in terms of giving access to people. And this is where congestion tax really hits me. When you look at the work Treasury did around congestion tax, the people that it hits hardest is those living in South Auckland. The average increase in what they will have to pay for a congestion tax is $2,000 per annum. That was 7 years ago, so you can imagine what it looks like now. It will hit people who are the lowest income and exactly what you're talking about the hardest. Thank you.
Fine, thank you very much.
An amazing public transport system can be the great equaliser of our society. So look to Melbourne, for example. You have the poor sitting next to the rich on their trams. That's exactly what we can have here in Auckland. Right now, wealthy people don't use public transport because it's not a great option. It isn't. It's much better to sit in your car in that congestion, listening to talkback with the heater on for half an hour to 3 hours, you know. It makes much more sense for us to, in order to have equitable transport, we need to actually have serious investment in public transport. And when that happens, we will see people from all wealth brackets using it. And that is where I think that public transport can really transform Auckland and our society. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed. The next question is... Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So, so I spent some more time on the Northern Busway. I'm sure you've been there, but there are plenty of high-income earning people using the Northern Busway. I think that's an example of the sort of thing we need to do more of. And social equity issues, which really I think we mean access, pricing, reliability. That's at the heart of the reason why I'm not like Phil and rushing to put a congestion charge on, because actually that will deteriorate and make harder those people for whom it's already very challenging. We had a meeting, some of us, with South Auckland young people on Friday, and their issues about how much it costs and how quickly can I get there. Until we have more public transport options and they're more reliable, and the new network that's being rolled out this year will help with that, then actually a congestion charge just makes it harder. And I'm not as dismissive as Phil is, I think, about the issues there. So I know there's more we can do. And critical to that is also building housing in the areas that council owns. The Manukau's actually, where we're a huge landowner. The unitary plan actually doesn't change the rules. We could have had more affordable housing in Manukau actually under the old rules. So we need to reorganise our budget to spend more on the infrastructure and make council easier to work, to have more affordable housing to make it easier for those sorts of people I'm talking about to access transport more readily.
Fine, thanks, Mark.